Growing up, I only got games for my birthday and Christmas, so I would replay my small but slowly growing collection of games multiple times. Mario 64, I kicked Bowser's ass over 50 times by age 8. Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast, I could play all the character stories and finish the game entirely in 6 hours. You could say I invented speedrunning. Fast forward to present day, where not only can I buy any game or any console I want, but there's so many games and services to experience. You have Steam, Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Store, GOG, all sorts of ways to experience games. And yet, I still find myself going back and replaying games I've beaten multiple times before. Is this because modern games nowadays are full price packages with not much substance? Or are certain games just made to be replayed? So recently I've took a break from making videos and streaming, I apologise, and this allowed me to do my yearly playthroughs of certain games as well as try out some games I've had in my backlog. I picked up Resident Evil Remake collection for the PS4 and this led to me getting the Platinum Trophy for Resident Evil 1, which involved multiple playthroughs, playing the game in ways I normally wouldn't, such as knife only and finishing the game without saving a single time. Resident Evil is a series that's always been about its replayability, giving you infinite weapons for finishing the game quickly, and other modes such as invisible enemy for you to try and beat. Even though getting the platinum was challenging at times, I did have a blast playing it. Even while I'm talking about it right now, I'm already getting that feeling to go back and play it and try and beat my best time. And then I played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a good game that I had fun with, but the thought of playing it again does not interest me at all. Even though it had plenty of collectibles for you to find, and of course getting all the achievements, one playthrough was enough for me. It's like when you go to your favourite restaurant and you decide to, spice things up a bit, and instead of going for the meal that you always get, you decide to get something new, something else. And then you say, yeah, next time I'll just get my usual. Single player games are usually packaged in the following way. They have a story or campaign for you to play through, and depending on the genre of game, you might have a few side quests you can do, or have tons of side quests. Sometimes these quests can be well crafted experience that at times are actually more interesting than the MSQ, and some are almost like an auto-generated made up thing to pad out the game's playtime.
Another settlement has sent word that they need our help.
Collectibles are also a staple of many games, and sometimes this can lead to you unlocking more goodies, or they're just another number for you to beef up. What makes a game more replayable is not just how many side quests your game has or how good the story is. These should be in addition to the gameplay loop that's enjoyable and addicting. And no, I don't mean gacha. Every game, no matter how good its story is, will have no replayability if the gameplay is no fun. One of my favourite series is Danganronpa, which is half visual novel, half puzzle game. Your first playthrough of these games will be great, you'll be engaged with the stories, worried about the characters you like potentially being murdered, and the courtroom puzzle games will have you thinking about how exactly the murders occurred. But once you've played it once, there's kind of no reason to replay it. You already know who lives and dies, you know what evidence to select in the minigames, and aside from getting to know the characters a bit better in between the cases, there's not really much reason to replay them. Unless of course you're watching a friend play them, that can be fun, but playing it again yourself, not so much. The same goes for games such as Telltale's The Walking Dead. Great first playthrough experience, no reason to play it again, especially when you find out that your choices all converge into a similar outcome. L.A. Noir's in a similar position to these games, but it does have this bit.
You fuck young boys, Valdez. Are you a madman?
Now let's talk about a series that in the end kinda had a similar issue to The Walking Dead, in that your choices converged at the end and you didn't really have much choice, but just to a lesser degree. The Mass Effect series, minus Andromeda, is without a doubt one of my favourites, and it's one of the most replayable series I can think of. From the start, you're given a lot of options to choose from when you're creating your Shepard. You can choose to play as male Shep or femme Shep, choosing your background story, and of course choosing what class you want to play as. In one playthrough, you might play as male Shep, who's an engineer with a ruthless personality, and in another you might play as femme Shep, who's a powerful biotic who was the sole survivor on an important mission in the past. From here you can choose to be a paragon or a renegade during the game, or you could do what I do in every playthrough I do, which is paragon 80% of the time, but then I always choose the good renegade choices.
I've had enough of your snide insinuations.
Commander, is this some kind of game? Are you calling in a report just so you can cut us off again?
You know it.
If you shoot me, my team's right through there.
How about goodbye?
And of course, one of Mass Effect's key selling points is the characters you meet along the way, who you can romance, who you can kill off. There's so much to do in these games, and they all flow into each other, meaning that by the time you get to Mass Effect 3, your playthroughs could be very different from each other. Until you have to choose blue, green or red at the end of Mass Effect 3. Most RPGs don't have much in replayability, as you usually play them for their story and their characters, but games like Mass Effect, Fallout and Elder Scrolls give the player enough options when it comes to creating your character, your playstyle, and how you deal with quests in the game. Do you help the person who tasked you with the quest? Or do you shoot them in the face? The choice is yours. But if we're talking about replayability in games, we have to talk about multiplayer games. The ones that immediately come to mind are Fortnite, League of Legends, Dota 2, Counter-Strike, Apex Legends, and Call of Duty. All of these games have been popular for a number of years and they have their massive fan bases. Just look at the esports competitions to see how crazy they are. These games continue to be played for thousands of hours every year with no signs of slowing down. Call of Duty is the slight odd one out in that when a new game comes out, the previous one dies, or at least loses a majority of its players as they move on to the next game.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next products.
But not all games can be like Call of Duty in that way. Most games that come with a multiplayer usually die after a couple weeks of release, unless they're already a big established series. Titanfall 2, my beloved, you deserve to live longer. If players don't stick around, then your multiplayer game will die and it will become unreplayable. Is that even a word? So if you don't jump into a game's multiplayer within the first 2 weeks of it being released, then you might not ever get to play it. If it can't find players to match you up with, then you're not getting very far. And then of course the game gets shut down. Like the time I wanted to jump into Concord's multiplayer only to find out the game was already dead. I bought this game 3 weeks after it died. I don't even have a PlayStation 5. But if competitive multiplayer isn't your cup of tea, then there's always co-op games that you can play with one or more friends. Some are not too replayable however, such as It Takes Two and A Way Out, both good games by the way. Joseph, my man, I hope to see what you've got cooking soon. But the best examples of co-op multiplayer games with great replayability that came out this year are Helldivers and Lethal Company. The strength of these games is without a doubt the fact you don't need to take them seriously, you can just run around with a group of friends killing bugs or being killed by bugs, and just generally goofing around. These allow for a more casual audience to play who maybe don't want to play scary multiplayer games like League where you and your entire family and your dog will be cursed for a lifetime for losing a single game.
Se trollou, mano. Ah, cara, puta.
And then of course there's Minecraft, without a doubt one of, if not the most replayable games in existence. Every time you start a new world, it's completely different from the last one you made, which means your playthroughs are going to be different from one another. You might find yourself spawned right beside a village with everything you need to start your first couple of days, or you might find yourself spawned right beside a cave full of creepers. Creeper, aw man. Minecraft being a sandbox allows for near infinite possibilities, and that's not even including the mods and the multiplayer. Without a doubt a game you could play until the end of time. I'm just not a big fan of Minecraft if I'm being honest. I usually start a new world with a few friends, we build for a couple days and then we just never play again. But I will be going to see the movie for how bad it looks.
I am Steve.
Replayability isn't just about extending playtime, it's about creating experiences that resonate with players long after the credits roll. These games and many others we've discussed understand that it's not just about the initial playthrough, it's in the 100th hour where you're still finding new stuff, still getting better at the game and still losing yourself in these worlds that feel like a second home. So Jordy, I hear you ask, what's your most replayed game or the game you put the most amount of time into? Is it Final Fantasy XIV? The game where you went on a long and great journey with some cool dudes? Or is it a game you mentioned earlier, Mario 64, Sonic Adventure? Well, dear viewer, I can tell you that the game I've replayed the most is actually none of these games. It's Football Manager 2011.